Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to show you how I made this 3-part sleeve. Let's get to it. I want the total length of my sleeve to be about 24 inches, which is from my shoulder to my wrist. And then I want this first part to be about 11 inches. For the balloon part, I want it to be about 10 inches. And then this part should be 3 inches. So if I add all this, I'm going to get 24 inches. Now that I have an idea of what I want and the length that I want, let's cut the sleeve. This is the dress I am making and I would like to add the sleeve too. So the first thing that you have to do is to measure the armhole. I have about 22.5 inches. Now I'm going to put this aside. So for this sleeve alone, you're going to need about 1 yard of fabric. Now, because I'm cutting 2 sleeves, I'm going to fold my fabric into 4. The first thing is to draw a baseline. From the baseline, you measure about 4 inches down. Get the length of the sleeve. I want this first part to be 11 inches. I'll measure 11 inches. Now, remember what I measured around the armhole was 22.5 inches divided by 2, that is 11.25. Now, I am going to draw a curve that is going to give me 11.25. First, you come in by about 2 inches and then you draw your curve. Measure the curve. I have 11.25. Just here. Now I am going to add an extra 1 inch for seam allowance. Measure around the arm, that is where the sleeve will stop. Mine is about 12. 12 divided by 2, that is 6. So because it's a free sleeve, it is not fitted, I'm going to add extra 1.5 for ease and then 1 inch for seam allowance. Then I'm going to curve it like this. This is the first part of the sleeve. To cut it out, I'm going to cut 0.5 inch below what I have here. That 0.5 inch is going to be a joining allowance for the balloon part. Now, measure what you have here. Ignore the seam allowance. I have 7.5, so that is going to guide me to cut the balloon sleeve part. So for one sleeve, I need 15 inches, alright? But because I'm going to be gathering it, I will multiply 15 inches by 1.5. That will give me 22.5 plus 1 inch for seam allowance. That is 23.5. So I'm going to cut 23.5. This is exactly 23.5 inches. The length I want is 10 inches, but you know I'm going to use 0.5 inch to join it to this, and I'm going to use 0.5 inch to join it to the cuff part, right? That will be 11 inches in total. So I measure 11 inches down. My fabric is on fold, so that means I'm cutting 2 at the same time. So I'm going to gather this to get the balloon. To cut the cuff, measure where the balloon sleeve will end. Remember, my balloon sleeve is going to end at 21 inches. Measure 21 inches down. Here is my 21 inches. Measure here. I have 8 inches. But my curve is not going to have a fastener. It's not going to have a button or a zipper. If I measure 8 inches, it won't be able to pass through this part of my hand. So like I said in the sleeve tutorial, when you want anything that has a curve, this is where you should measure. I have 9 inches as against 8 inches that I measured here. Now to cut the curve, fold your extra fabric into 4 like this. Then remember that what I measured on my arm was 9 inches. add 1 inch for ease and sewing allowance, that is 10 inches. Divide that by 2, that is 5. So after folding the fabric into 4, I must have 5 inches, just like this. 5 inches. Okay, so now the height of the sleeve that I want is 3 inches. I'm going to use 0.5 inch to join it to the balloon sleeve. That will be 3.5. Now I'll mark 3.5 and then I'll fold it into 2. Cut it out like this. This is the cuff part. This is the balloon part. I'm going to gather it. And then this is the top of the sleeve. The first thing I'm going to do is to sew all the seam allowances. I'm going to sew here 1 inch. Do the same thing here. On this one as well, I'll sew 1 inch, 1 inch. Remember, we left 1 inch while drafting. So for this part, I left half an inch while drafting. So I'm going to sew it half an inch, and then we're going to come back. Okay guys, I have sewn the sides and I've overlocked it. I'm just going to put one of the sleeves aside and we'll work on one. Now, what I have here is 7.5 inches, which is 15. Remember, it is on fold. Now, I'm going to gather this top part into 15 inches. So to gather it, what you're going to do is to run a basting stitch, the longest stitch on your machine, and then pull the thread and gather it. At the bottom part as well, you're going to run a basting stitch. Okay, so I'm going to gather this bottom part to 9 because we'll be joining this bottom part to here. Alright guys, so I've gathered this one, the balloon part. Now to join it, we're going to join this to this first. It's not in any particular order, but let's join it that way. Turn this to the right side and then you flip it over and put it inside. You see, this is still on the wrong side. So you're going to align the seams. Instead of gathering, you can also pleat. Some people prefer to pleat. Pin it down. After pinning, you sew round with a 0.5 inch seam allowance. Alright, which is the joining allowance. Now for this bottom part, fold it into 2 like this. Flip it over and put it inside. This seam allowance here must be where this seam allowance is. Pin it down. Okay, so I also the top 0.5 inch and then also the bottom 0.5 inch. I'm going to do the same thing for this sleeve. So guys, I have sewn it. Now let's bring it out. This is what the wrong side looks like. If you turn it to the right side, this is what it looks like. Now I am going to join it to the dress. So to join it to the dress, you're going to put this inside, put it inside the dress, open it up, and then you start to match the sleeve, right side facing. Okay, so I'm going to sew around with a 0.5 inch seam allowance. So guys, after sewing it, this is what the sleeve looks like. It gives the dress a lift and okay, it makes it more beautiful. So thank you very much for watching the tutorial. I hope it was helpful. If it was, please like, share and subscribe, and also please drop a comment. Bye.